To move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Tom Tugendhat.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm sorry to see the honourable member for Strangford running off. I was very much looking forward to his intervention a little later, but maybe he'll be back. Who knows? Lucky me. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Hadlow College is Kent's only land-based rural college. It is unique in our county and for the offer that it provides. Its huge range of courses are designed to provide the skills needed to maintain Kent's place as the Garden of England. And having been campaigning for fantastic Conservative councillors earlier today in the beautiful sunshine, I can assure you, Madam Deputy Speaker, it remains that wonderful garden. It is also a regional powerhouse and an important part of the local Tunbridge community. Speak to any of our key rural businesses and they will tell you how the skills offered at Hadlow College help maintain our agricultural capacity in Kent. For these reasons, we should have always been celebrating what Hadlow College does for the local area. But I must be honest, there was a period when we couldn't. In 2019, Hadlow College became the first further education institution in the country to enter educational administration. During this debate, I will, Madam Deputy Speaker, explore how the process affects Hadlow and the community today, and ask the Minister to consider how the process could be improved. But before I do, I want to pay tribute to all staff and students who were at the college and all the linked institutions during this challenging time. They made sure courses kept running, most of which were unaffected. I just want to name a few. Graham Morley, the first interim principal after educational administration in 2019, Lindsay Pamphilon, Jim Morby at the Tunbridge site, and now David Gleed and Chris Lydon from the North Kent College. Not forgetting Paul Boxall and his team at Hadlow Rural Community School, to whom I shall refer later. But the reality is, they had a much harder job because of the process this college went through in 2019. In May 2019, Hadlow College became the first further education facility in the country to enter educational administration after an Education and Skills Funding Agency investigation. This followed updates to the statutory college insolvency regime in January 2019, which affected further education and sixth form colleges. It meant Hadlow College kept the doors open. But it was not just Hadlow College which needed to be rescued. It included Hadlow Rural Community School, West Kent College in Tunbridge, Bettishanger Colliery in Dover, Ashford College, Princess Christian's Farm in Hildenborough, animal management sites in Canterbury, Mottingham and a further site in Greenwich. The question is simple. How did so many further education institutions end up insolvent? The expansion happened quickly in the years preceding 2019. It wasn't just the acquisition of further sites, but the subsequent investment too. Take Bettishanger Colliery. After Hadlow College's interest started, it spent £1.2 million changing plans for a visitors centre and then lost £4 million on the collapsed sale of a business park. It became very clear, very quickly, that the college had been reckless with its finances. Its expansion was getting further away from its core purpose, to provide land-based education in West Kent. Following the ESFA investigation, I wrote to the then Minister of State for Apprenticeships and Skills at the Department for Education, Anne Milton, on the 10th of May 2019, and I shall read back from this letter today in respect of Bettishanger Colliery. I would be concerned if further investment is made here in the light of the financial situation should courses be cut with students left unable to gain their qualifications. Put simply, money was being used for these peripheral projects which either did not exist or was being transferred out of students' education. Now, at this point, I was to touch on the concept of the Hadlow Group. I have a copy of a letter I received on the 1st of October 2018 from the so-called Hadlow Group, informing me of a proposal to merge West Kent and Ashford College and Hadlow College. Madam Deputy Speaker, in the interest of time, I shall not go into the background of this, which starts with the collapse of K College nearly 15 years ago. I merely want to point out that the Hadlow Group was seeking to merge colleges at the time. As the ESFA, Further Education Commissioner, administrators and department have rightly recognised, the Hadlow Group had no legal structure. It was essentially a marketing term to provide credibility to the ever-expanding portfolio of sites. But it does give us an indication as to where this started to go wrong. In the years leading up to 2019, I, as the local MP, met many times with the college, and often I was asked to help secure significant amounts of money for them. In December 2016, I was informed of two immediate funding issues: the repayment of £888,000 from the 2014-15 financial year arising from the K College acquisition, and then £929,935, which was needed at West Kent and Ashford Colleges for the 2016-17 year. I asked the department for this funding on the basis that it was being used to support further education provision in West Kent. But was it? We now know that Hadlow College at the time applied for £20 million from the ESFA Transactions Unit. This application failed. The ESFA demanded its funding be returned, and Hadlow College consequently asked for what was essentially a government bailout. I include all this history for the Minister's benefit and for the House's benefit, to understand how complex the situation was, but also to make clear what was happening. Money was being requested on a huge scale, supposedly for further education provision. That's not where it was going. As the subsequent investigations have found, there was financial mismanagement on a scale never seen before, which led to Hadlow College entering educational administration. There must be some accountability for those who made those decisions, and it is therefore disappointing to many that those responsible for this expenditure, primarily the principal and finance director at the time, have not seen their investigations conducted in the public domain. We learnt in November 2023 that Paul Hannon, then principal, will be fined £250,000 if he ever works in education again. We also know from the administrators reports that a deal was made between the deputy principal, Mark Lumsden-Taylor, where Mr Lumsden-Taylor agreed to pay a four-figure sum as part of a confidentiality agreement. Madam Deputy Speaker, I find this part of the process extremely unsatisfactory. Tens of millions of pounds of public money has been poured into the educational administration process because of the reckless actions of these two senior leaders of Hadlow College at the time. I do not think that a confidentiality agreement is appropriate, given the scale and profile this issue has, and I would urge the department to bring forward amendments to future legislation which increase the level of transparency and accountability on these matters. This view is widely held within the community because, sadly, the offer at Hadlow College has deteriorated since the educational administration process. The Hadlow College farm shop is no more, Broadview tea rooms closed, its land holding has decreased, all of which enabled Hadlow College to be a suitable provider prior to the reckless expansion plans pursued in the last decade. All now gone because of the need to pay back for failed business ventures. Put simply, what has happened here is a gamble with students' education in order to expand beyond the core purpose of Hadlow College. Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to build on this point further, and I would appreciate answers from the Minister as to how we can strengthen the educational administration process to future-proof education land in the future. Now, why do I focus on land? Well, because that is what Hadlow College is fundamentally about. It's a land-based college. It needs land to train the next generation of rural entrepreneurs. The more land it has, the more it can contribute to the rural economy. And the same applies for Hadlow Rural Community School. In 2022, a number of parcels of land around Hadlow were marketed for sale by Knight Frank on behalf of the administrators. The proceeds were used to pay back creditors. I understand this rationale from a financial perspective, but this isn't an administration process. It was called educational administration. The education provision had successfully continued throughout this turmoil. There is broad agreement from all those now responsible for delivering further education at Hadlow, including North Kent College and Hadlow Rural Community School, that the sale of parcels of land has impacted the student offer right now. This is deeply regrettable. I would therefore like to ask the Minister how we might be able to adapt the educational administration process to ensure land sales are not the default, especially for land-based educational establishments with this specialism. From the perspective of North Kent College, having just taken over Hadlow College, the speed of this process meant they couldn't accurately make arguments to safeguard some land earmarked for sale. This has meant repurposing its provision onto a smaller footprint. It has a big impact on the village. Indeed, having to repurpose now means a much desired footpath and cycleway between Tunbridge and Hadlow is now extremely unlikely to be delivered, and the impact is even more severe for Hadlow Rural Community School. And I'm afraid I'm deeply concerned with the approach that the department is currently taking towards its governance. Hadlow Rural Community School have done extremely well to survive this process. It was designed for a land-based specialism, and the educational administration process rightly safeguarded that. Separation of the school and the college was inevitable, but not necessarily detrimental to either. But the loss of land in Hadlow affects them both. I would refer the Minister to my letter of the 10th of April 2025 to the Secretary of State. The Department is now articulating, based on a letter to the school from the Department dated on the 3rd of April 2025, that the plots of land at Court Lane that could be used for educational provision are sold. Frankly, it is this letter that motivated me to apply for this debate today. The reasons given for this are interesting. It is claimed in this letter that ministers have determined that capital investment options do not offer good value for money. Well, this is the same department which has rightly invested tens of millions of pounds securing the future of education in Hadlow, both for the school and the college. The education provision needs to be appropriate in a competitive market. Tunbridge has some of the highest performing secondary schools and further education facilities in the country. Many people move to our community for our schools. Hadlow Rural Community School is an important part of this network, one that has a clear specialism. The department needs to support this first and foremost. In addition, I was extremely disappointed to see a passing reference at the end of the same letter to the school engaging with North Kent College in a long-term solution. Please, may I remind the Minister that the long-term solution was found when separation occurred, and I would encourage the Minister to speak to officials who can remind her of the considerable correspondence we had back in 2023 to secure the appropriate lease for the school to access the college's land. But bringing this back to the nub of the issue, Hadlow Rural Community School must thrive and it must succeed. And in order to do so, it must have the land available to retain its land-based specialism. It can do this under the current governance model, not as part of the North Kent College delivery of services at Hadlow College. This works best for both parties. Otherwise, we run the risk of repeating all the governance failures that contributed to educational administration in the first place. The history I referred to earlier of murky government processes, expansion without clear justification, and frankly, some pretty outrageous scrutiny of public finances by the two individuals I named must be avoided. And this is where I want to end. Educational administration is an extremely difficult process. It is expensive, and since the Incorporations Act of 1992, I doubt whether there have been many other transactions where two interconnecting colleges were broken up, one split into two parts, and then being transferred to three receiving colleges. Today, many parts of the complex further education web at Hadlow and in Kent, more broadly, are thriving. And I just must pay a huge tribute to those in further education colleges who give so many opportunities to so many. As I said at the start, staff, management and students must take huge credit and huge pride for what they achieved during these difficult days. But it is now the responsibility of the department to safeguard this under the current governance model. And I'll continue to be happy to work very closely with the Minister and her officials to achieve this, so that we do not allow any historic actions of the kind that I have listed to happen again. Thank you.
Minister, Janet Dick.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I congratulate the Honourable Member for Tunbridge on securing this important debate, and I too wish to pay tribute to all of the staff and students at colleges and the school that are mentioned in this debate this afternoon, North Kent College and Hadlow Rural Community School. In fact, I wish to extend this to all colleges and schools across Kent. I hear very clearly the points that have been made by the Right Honourable Member for Tunbridge, and I will attempt to address the points that he has made during the course of my response. Further education colleges are indeed a vital part of the education system in this country, and it's important that we continue to support them and provide all the necessary tools to assist with ensuring they have good financial sustainability. This includes the ability to respond to financial distress and in its worst case, insolvency. Land-based provision is an important part of the further education system, with strong links to the government's mission to kickstart economic growth, to support Britain's ecology and to make it a clean energy superpower. Hadlow College, part of the North Kent College Group, is the only land-based college in Kent, and it has its own beef herd, sheep farm, horticultural production, a large animal management centre, fisheries lakes, machinery and land-based technology facility, and an equine centre. Its curriculum includes courses in agriculture, agricultural engineering, animal management, equine management, fisheries, forestry and horticulture, as well as some non-land-based courses. Hadlow College is indeed an important place within the Kent skills system. Hadlow College has one main campus in Hadlow, and prior to being placed in educational administration, it was federated with another college, West Kent and Ashford College, a general further education college with campuses in Ashford and Tunbridge. Historically, in February 2019, the colleges faced a series of financial challenges, resulting in a request to the Department for exceptional financial support. At this time, the colleges continued to face significant creditor pressure, which was a key factor in the decision to place Hadlow College into education administration. Combined, the colleges owed creditors approximately $100 million prior to educational administrators being appointed. Hadlow College was placed into education administration in May 2019, followed by West Kent and Ashford College in August 2019. Following the appointment of education administrators, they, in conjunction with the department, stabilised the financial position of the college, whilst a solution to ensure learners were protected. Without the college needing to remain in education administration was sought. The education administrators also hired an interim principal to run the colleges with advice from the Stakeholder Education Advisory Board during this period. What followed was an intense period of options, review led by the Further Education Commissioner to determine the best future outcomes for the college's provision. This included inviting interested parties to make proposals to take on the provision. It should be noted that Ofsted visited both colleges during the process, and they found they were making reasonable progress with regard to educational performance. This resulted in the recommendation that North Kent College should require the Hadlow College's provision and its respective facilities. The transaction was supported with funding from the department and was completed in August 2020. And at this point, I'd also like to say the protection of learners was achieved, and I will go on to explain this further. Alongside the Hadlow College Education Administration, the education administrators for West Kent and Ashford College also ran an options review in conjunction with the Further Education Commissioner and invited interested parties to take on the college's provision. This resulted in the recommendation that East Kent College should acquire the college's provision and its respective facilities at the Ashford site. The transaction was supported with funding from the department and was completed in March 2020. Combined with the transaction at Hadlow College, together with the other smaller similar sites between both colleges, more than 5,000 learners were protected through the education administration process. An investigation into any mismanagement at the college was undertaken by the education administrators and then joint liquidators. This is a statutory lead investigation which applies to not only education administration but also to other insolvency processes. The outcomes of those investigations are detailed in the joint liquidation progress reports, which are publicly available at Companies House, but in summary, they reached settlement agreements with the individuals involved. The department welcomed the conclusion of the joint liquidators' investigations into the conduct of certain relevant individuals at Hadlow and West Kent and Ashford colleges, and the department takes the protection of public funds extremely seriously, and we will continue to support robust action where there are concerns around the safeguarding of taxpayers' money. Now, moving to Hadlow Rural Community School, as the Right Honourable Member points out, there have been implications of the educational administration of the college for the co-location of Hadlow Rural Community School. Hadlow Rural Community School was originally established by Hadlow College with a land-based specialism. The two organisations had governance links, and the schools assessed the college's extensive land-based facility to deliver its offer. During the process of the college's educational administration, separate governance arrangements for the school were established, and the department worked with the school to ensure these arrangements were robust. The price to Hadlow Rural Community School of accessing the college's facilities rose to the extent that it was no longer sustainable within the school's budget, and the school has requested that department support it to develop its own land-based facilities. Now, I appreciate the school has undertaken extensive work on proposals to the department over a number of years to inform the officials' assessment, and I would like to pay tribute to the head teacher, Paul Boxall, his team and the Hadlow Rural Community School Trust Board for all the work that has gone into this and the passion that they have shown in wanting to ensure the very best for their pupils. However, this is a complex case, and it is critical that any support the department may provide offers value for taxpayers' money. It is, of course, important that the school has clarity so it can move forward with certainty and indeed thrive. To be clear, ministers value the school's land-based specialism, and we appreciate the challenges this situation has caused for the school, and we remain open to considering ways to support the school to ensure it can continue to offer a high quality and broad land-based curriculum. The recent decision the Right Honourable Member refers to was not only related to Court Lane land, but also to potentially significant capital investment to develop facilities on that land, particularly with high-quality specialist facilities at the neighbouring college, and in the context of constrained public finances, ministers decided this did not offer good value for money. Given those facilities at Hadlow College, our view is that rather than replicating such specialist and expensive facilities next door, it is worth exploring whether an agreement can be reached between the college and the school on shared use of the college's facilities. We understand there will be complexities to this, and that it will be important for the school for any solution to offer security for the long term, should the two organisations agree to negotiate. And we have offered support from officials to try and help to broker that, and at the moment this seems very likely. Also, to be clear, we understand the school's desire for independence, and the department has no intention of forcing the school to change its governance arrangements. We remain open to considering alternative proposals from the school, and indeed the school has recently suggested a new option which the officials have agreed to consider. Now, the liquidations of both Hadlow and West Kent and Ashford colleges remain open whilst the liquidators realise the remaining surplus non-educational assets. Again, the details of those assets are in the Joint Liquidators Progress Report available at Companies House, but in summary they relate to surplus plots of land in Hadlow. The liquidator's strategy to realise the surplus land involves planning applications for its conclusion in the Tunbridge and Morling Borough Council's local plan, which would, if successful, enhance its value. The department has priority security on all of these remaining land assets, and any realisations directly offset the cost of the educational administration process, and they are effectively a return to the department and to the taxpayer. Those assets which were not surplus and were required by either North Kent College or East Kent College were transferred to those respective colleges as part of the transactions to take on the learner and provision of Hadlow College and West Kent and Ashford College, and achieve the objectives of the education administration to protect those learners. I understand the Right Honourable Member has a request for a meeting, and I understand that this is in process. And I would like to assure him that we will continue to work with the joint liquidators to ensure the best possible outcome for taxpayers. We will also ensure to work with North Kent College to ensure the land-based and general further education provision Hadlow continues to succeed for the benefit of its learners and for the Right Honourable Member's constituency. Thank you.